I took the job to pay my bills. But that bus, it came with rules. And the kids, they weren't alive. Let me back up. My name's James. I'm just a regular guy. I used to work in a factory, metal press and machine stuff. Hard work, long hours, but it kept the lights on. Until they shut it down. Layoffs. No warning. One day we're working, the next, we're gone. I've got a daughter, Annie. She's 9. Smart, kind, a little quiet. After I lost the factory job, money got real tight. Rent, food, gas. I was falling behind on everything. I was scared. So when I saw the ad for school bus drivers, I jumped on it. They weren't picky. No background checks, no real interviews, just a quick chat, a driving test, and a look at my license. "You're hired," the lady said, barely looking up. "Start tomorrow, night shift." I blinked. Night shift? For a school bus? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We have after-school programs, some late drop-offs, nothing crazy." She handed me a key and a folder. "You'll be driving bus 13. Now, I'm not superstitious. I don't freak out about black cats or broken mirrors. But something about the number made me pause. 13. Just unlucky. That night, I drove to the depot. It was just outside town. Dirt lot, chain link fence, rows of yellow buses, some rusty, some newer. I found mine parked way in the back. Bus 13 looked old, like real old. Paint was faded, one headlight was dim, the windows had streaks like handprints. I climbed in, and the door hissed shut behind me. Inside, it smelled like dust and rubber. The seat creaked under me. Everything felt off, but I didn't care. I needed this job. Then I found a paper taped to the dash. The edges were curled and yellow. Big letters scrawled in red ink. Rules for bus 13. Do not look in the rearview mirror after 7 p.m. Do not answer if a child asks you a question during the return drive. If the bus feels colder in the back, do not check. Lock the door when you park, no matter what. I chuckled. Thought it was some kind of prank. Probably a joke from another driver. I crumpled the paper, shoved it in my pocket, and fired up the engine. The bus rumbled to life, louder than I expected. The gauges flickered, then settled. My route was simple. Pick up kids from aftercare programs, sports, late classes, drop them off. Then drive the empty bus back to the depot. That first run, nothing weird. A little boring, honestly. Kids climbed in, talked, laughed, got off one by one. I didn't even finish my coffee before the last drop-off. By 7:45, I was alone. I took a deep breath, relaxed into the seat, and started the return trip. The road back was long and dark. Trees lined both sides. No street lights out there. Just the hum of the engine and the yellow glow of the dashboard. About 10 minutes from the depot, I heard it. A laugh. High-pitched, childlike, coming from the back of the bus. I froze. At first, I thought maybe I missed a kid, but I counted, checked every seat, locked the door. I always double-check. I'm a dad. I'm careful with kids. I turned my head. Nothing. The seats were empty, dark, still. I checked the mirror and stopped. That paper, the rule. Don't look in the rearview mirror after 7 p.m. My heart pounded. It was just a joke, a dumb prank, but my hands were shaking. I looked again. The mirror showed the aisle behind me, just shadows and seats. But something felt wrong. The air behind me felt thick, like a storm was sitting in the back row. I drove faster. The laugh came again, this time closer. I slammed on the brakes. The bus screeched to a stop. I flipped on the interior lights and walked down the aisle. "Hello?" I called. "Is someone there?" No answer. Just the hum of the engine. The lights buzzed above me. The seats looked normal, clean, still warm from the kids who'd been there earlier. I searched every seat, lifted every backpack, looked under every bench. Nothing. The bus was empty. I walked back to the front, sat down, and locked the door. Just nerves, I told myself. You're tired, it's your first night. I finished the drive, parked the bus, and climbed out. But when I closed the door behind me, I heard it again. A laugh. Soft. Right at the edge of hearing. Coming from inside the bus. I turned, pressed my face to the glass. The aisle was empty, but a seat belt near the back slowly unbelted itself. Click. I stepped back, swallowed hard, and told myself it was just a loose belt. That's all. Just a loose belt.
The next morning, everything felt normal again. Bright sun, fresh coffee, kids laughing at the stop signs. Just a regular day. No creepy sounds, no ghost belts unbuckling. I almost convinced myself it was a dream. Almost. I did the full morning shift, picked up a group of kids from Maple Elementary, and dropped them off at school. They joked around, played games, and made a mess with their snacks. Nothing strange happened. No laughter in the mirror, no cold air, no shadows. Just a regular route. When I finished, I parked bus 13 in its usual spot. I left the door open, engine off, and walked back to my car. Still, something about that laugh from the night before stayed in my head. The kind of sound you can't forget. Not funny, not cute, just wrong. That night, I started the evening shift again. Same stops, same roads, same kids. But as the sun dropped, that uneasy feeling came back. I don't know how to explain it. The road just looked darker than usual, like the shadows were a little thicker, like the trees were leaning in closer than they should. Once the last kid got off, I locked the door behind him and took a deep breath. Empty again. Just me and the wheel. The clock said 7:12 p.m. I gripped the wheel tight and kept my eyes on the road. No mirrors, no distractions. 5 minutes into the drive back, the temperature dropped. Fast. The front of the bus stayed warm, but the air behind me turned freezing cold. I checked the dash. The heater was working fine. I glanced in the mirror just for a second and saw nothing. But I swear I felt something. Like eyes watching me from the last row. I turned up the radio to block it out. Static buzzed, then cut off completely. Dead silence. And then, soft laughter. Same voice, same sound. But this time, it didn't stop. It echoed through the whole bus, bouncing off the walls like a game. I hit the brakes and pulled over. The engine idled as I stood up and faced the back. The lights flickered once, then stayed on. I slowly walked down the aisle. Empty. Seat by seat, I checked. Still nothing. But one thing was different. A backpack sat on the third row from the back, pink with a unicorn patch on the front. I hadn't seen it earlier, and I knew, without a doubt, that no one had left it behind. I knelt down, opened the zipper. Inside were crayons, a sandwich wrapped in plastic, and a note. The note said, in messy handwriting, "Thank you for driving me home." I stood up so fast I almost fell. Slamming the bag shut, I grabbed it and marched to the front of the bus. I tossed the backpack on the steps and stared at the windshield, heart racing. I was ready to call dispatch, ready to quit, ready to throw the keys and walk away. But I didn't. I started driving again, and then I passed Old Creek Bridge, and it happened again. The laughter. Only this time, it wasn't just one voice. It was several. Boys and girls, giggling, whispering, humming, like they were playing hide and seek in the dark. I gritted my teeth. My hands shook on the wheel. Not real, not real, not real. But then I looked in the mirror again. Just a quick glance, and there it was. A shadow, sitting in the last seat. Small, still, just watching. I jerked the wheel in panic. The bus swerved a little. When I looked again, the shadow was gone. I parked at the depot and jumped off the bus. I ran straight to the little office trailer where dispatch sits. The guy on duty was an old man named Rob. Wore a flannel shirt, drank black coffee, always smelled like motor oil. He looked up. "You okay? Do we have cameras on bus 13? I asked, panting. He chuckled. "Still running hot, huh? Yeah, we got dash cams. Why?" "Something's wrong," I said. "There's someone on the bus. I keep hearing things, seeing things. A backpack showed up out of nowhere." Rob sipped his coffee. "You're not the first one to say that." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" He stood up and stretched his back. "Bus 13's been around a long time. They pulled it off the road for years. Then they brought it back when we ran short on drivers. Some folks say it's cursed. Why the hell didn't anyone tell me? You wouldn't have taken the job if we did." I clenched my fists. "What do you mean, cursed?" He shrugged. "Kids disappeared on that bus once, long time ago. Nobody talks about it. I'm just saying, Bus 13 has a history." My mouth felt dry. Rob smiled. "Welcome to Bus 13.
I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that shadow sitting in the back row, still, watching, waiting. And that backpack, the way it just showed up out of nowhere, the note inside, I knew something was wrong. I showed up late to the depot the next day. Rob didn't say anything, just nodded and handed me the keys again. "Same route?" He smirked. "Bus 13 only has one route." I walked across the gravel lot. My boots crunched on frost. It hadn't snowed, but the air was sharp and cold, like winter was creeping in early. I opened the door to Bus 13 and froze. There were sticky notes on the inside of the windshield. 3 of them. Bright yellow, like someone just placed them there that morning. The handwriting was messy, almost childlike. I leaned in to read them. "Rule number 1, never stop if you hear crying. Rule number 2, don't speak to them, ever. Rule number 3, if you see red shoes in the aisle, don't move." My stomach dropped. I didn't write those. Nobody else had the keys. I'd locked the bus myself. I pulled one note off. It didn't peel like paper. It stuck like paint, smudged yellow on my fingers, like it was melted into the glass. I grabbed a rag and tried to wipe it off. Nothing. It smeared and left a faint yellow glow, like highlighter under a black light. I gave up. Sat down. Engine started with a loud groan. As I backed out of the parking row, I tried the radio. Needed some noise, anything to keep me from thinking about that shadow or the laughter or the freezing air. The music worked fine, a local rock station. Static at first, then some old 80s song I didn't recognize. I relaxed, took a breath. Picked up the first group of kids, all normal, chatty, cheerful, nothing strange. I even joked with one of the boys about his Spider-Man backpack. It felt good to smile, like things were turning around. But deep down, I knew better. After the last drop-off, I started the return trip. The sun was almost gone, sky turning purple and gray. As soon as I passed Maple Hollow, the radio cut out, dead silent. Then, just like before, the laughter started. But this time, it was closer, louder, like it was coming from the seat right behind me. I clenched the wheel, didn't look back, didn't speak, just kept driving. Then, a small voice whispered my name. "Mr. James?" I flinched. My heart slammed in my chest. Another voice, softer. "Can you help us?" I gritted my teeth and pressed the gas. The rules, don't speak to them. The air behind me felt thick again, wet like fog was seeping through the floor. I tried the heater, nothing. Cold air blew through the vents, even though I'd cranked the dial to full. A whisper brushed my ear. "We're cold." I shook my head. Nope, not listening, not talking. The laughter turned into humming. A quiet song, off-key, over and over, like a music box playing in reverse. Then I heard footsteps, tiny ones, soft thuds coming down the aisle, getting closer. I looked straight ahead, my fingers locked around the steering wheel so tight they hurt. But I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't look. And just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, it stopped. The air warmed slightly, the humming faded. Silence again. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The depot came into view. As soon as I parked and turned the key, the door hissed open, even though I hadn't touched the lever. I stepped out. The cold night air hit me like a slap. I stood there for a moment, staring into the bus. Everything looked normal again. But then I saw them. Muddy footprints. Small, wet, dirty prints leading from the back row up to the driver's seat. They stopped right where I had been sitting. I stepped back. The footprints weren't there before. I locked the door, heard the click, made sure of it. Then I went straight to Rob's trailer. He was pouring himself a fresh cup of coffee. "You ever get sticky notes on the windshield?" I asked. He looked up, slow and careful. "What'd they say?" I repeated the rules. His face stayed blank, but his hand trembled slightly as he set the coffee down. "Yeah, they show up sometimes." "From who?" He shook his head. "Nobody knows. Some think it's the kids. Others say it's the bus itself, warning drivers, keeping them alive." My stomach twisted. "Alive?" He leaned in. "3 drivers quit this route before you. One of them locked himself in the bus for a whole night. We found him rocking in the seat, whispering about red shoes." I swallowed. "Red shoes?" Rob nodded. "You ever see red shoes in the aisle? You freeze. Don't move. Not even an inch." "Why?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "Because they're watching. And if you move, they think it's their turn to drive."
I didn't go home that night. I sat in my car just outside the depot, staring at Bus 13. Its windows were dark, but I swear, I saw something move inside. Maybe it was my reflection, or maybe it wasn't. I couldn't tell anymore. My phone buzzed, a text from my daughter's babysitter. "Annie's fine, sleeping now. You still working?" I typed back, "Yeah, I'll be late." I didn't tell her about the whispers, the sticky notes, the footprints. I didn't tell her I was scared out of my mind. The next morning, I showed up for the day shift. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. Bills still needed paying. Annie still needed food. Rent was due next week. Rob handed me the keys like always. Bus 13's warmed up for you. I almost didn't take them, but I did. Because when you're a single dad with no job options and a haunted bus is all you've got, you drive. That day, things were normal again. I picked up kids, dropped them off, listened to their dumb jokes and pop songs. They laughed, played, shouted. The seats bounced, the floor shook. The smell of lunchboxes and markers filled the air. It felt alive, and for a moment, I forgot. Until the end of the day. When I did my final walk down the aisle, checking for left-behind stuff, I noticed something strange. One seatbelt was fastened. Row 5, window side. Just one. The bus had been empty since the last kid got off. I didn't think much of it. Maybe one of the kids buckled it before getting out. I unlatched it. It clicked softly, like a whisper. Then, I turned around. Click! The belt snapped back in. By itself. I stared at it, heart pounding. I reached out again, slower this time. Unbuckled it, let it hang. Then, I backed away, step by step, watching it. I reached the front, turned around. Click! I spun back. It was buckled again. I didn't move for a long time. Didn't speak. Didn't breathe. The next night, it got worse. Everything felt colder, sharper, like the whole bus was holding its breath. After the last drop-off, I started back toward the depot. Same road, same trees, same shadows. And then it happened. Seatbelts. Click, click, click. One by one, every row, seatbelts began buckling. Some fast, some slow, but none by me. No one was on the bus, just me. I turned the mirror up. Didn't want to see. Didn't want to know. But I still heard them. Click, click, click. I reached for the dash cam, wanted to see if it was recording, if I could prove I wasn't losing it. The camera was dead. No light, no signal. I pulled over and called Rob. Rob! The seatbelts! They're moving! Silence. You still there? He sighed. Don't fight it. Don't call them out. Just let them ride. What are you talking about? He said nothing for a moment. Then, they were kids once. They remember the rules. They think they're going home. I hung up. That night, I didn't go straight home. I stopped at the gas station down the road, bought a cheap flashlight and some batteries. I wasn't planning to use it. I just needed to feel like I had control over something. I parked bus 13 at the depot, got out, locked the door, and turned back one last time. Something caught my eye. On the side panel, below the emergency exit window, scratched into the metal with something sharp. 7 inside. My skin crawled. I climbed back up into the driver's seat and turned on the cabin lights. I walked the aisle again. row by row, seat by seat. Counted out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seatbelts, buckled, tight. Nothing in them, but I could feel it. The cold, the weight, like invisible kids were sitting there, waiting. A voice whispered, just loud enough to hear, "Don't forget us." I backed out of the bus, heart slamming in my chest. I almost tripped down the steps. Outside, I leaned against the door, shaking. Then I heard footsteps on gravel. I turned fast, flashlight up. It was an old man, thin, pale, wrinkled face, wearing a faded orange vest with "maintenance" stitched on the back. He looked at me with tired eyes. "You're the new driver?" "Yeah," I said, still catching my breath. He nodded. "I used to drive bus 13. I stared at him. "You drove this thing?" He said, "Back in '03. Didn't last long." "What happened?" He looked at the bus. "Field trip, wet roads. The driver before me lost control, skidded off the bridge near Riverbend. Bus flipped into the water." My chest tightened. "Were there any survivors?" He shook his head. "Not all of them. 7 kids drowned. They never found their bodies." I looked back at the bus. "Why bring it back?" He shrugged. "People forget. Budget cuts. They cleaned it up, repainted it, tried to move on. But the kids, they didn't." He leaned closer. "They ride every night. Buckle in, wait for a ride that never ends." I felt cold all over. He reached into his coat, pulled out a folded paper. "I kept this, thought you might need it." I opened it. It was the original passenger list. 7 names, 7 ages, all between 8 and 11. One name stood out. Emma Ray, age 9, seat 5, window. The same seat I saw buckle on its own. The old man turned to leave. Before he walked off, he said one more thing. "Dead kids don't wear seatbelts unless they think you're taking them home."
The next night, I almost didn't show up. I sat in my car outside the depot with the engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel, just thinking. Emma Ray, age 9, seat 5, window. Same seat belt I'd seen buckled by itself, same row, same cold spot. And now I knew her name. That made it worse. Before, it was just shadows, just creepy noises. Now they had names, faces, lives. I don't know what made me climb into bus 13 again. Maybe it was Annie. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe I just didn't want to be the kind of man who ran away. Either way, I got in. The cabin lights flickered when I turned the key. The radio clicked twice, then cut off. Same as always. But this time, there was something new. A smell. It was faint, but sweet, like flowers, maybe lavender, or old perfume. I checked the heater. It wasn't on. I pulled away from the depot and started the route. Picked up the kids, laughed at their jokes, listened to music. I was starting to fake it pretty well. When the last kid got off, I locked the door and headed back. That's when I saw her in the mirror. Row 7, last seat. She sat still, like she'd always been there. Yellow dress, long black hair, no shoes. I slammed the brakes. The bus jerked, tires screeching against the asphalt. I turned around. Empty. But the smell was stronger now. And the cold, it was bone deep. I turned the bus back on and kept driving. Didn't speak. Didn't look again. Until I passed Old Creek Bridge. That's when she came back. Same row, same seat. She didn't move, didn't smile, just stared. Her eyes were too big, too dark, like deep water. I tried not to look, I really did, but the mirror pulled me in. I stared into it, and she stared back. We stayed like that until the depot came into view. Then she vanished, like smoke in the wind. That night, when I got home, I walked into the kitchen to find something strange on the table. A piece of paper. My daughter Annie was already asleep. The babysitter said she hadn't left her room all night. So where did the paper come from? It was a drawing. Crayon. Child's hand. 7 stick figures. All smiling. One of them had black hair and a yellow triangle for a dress. And in the middle of them all was a tall figure. Me. I sat down hard. My hands shook. It was the same kind of drawing Annie used to make when she was younger, only this one wasn't hers. I turned it over. No name, but the crayon had left pressure marks on the wood table, like it was pressed too hard. Angry, desperate. I barely slept, and when I did, I dreamed. In the dream, I was driving bus 13 again. Only this time, the road was gone. Just black water on all sides. The bus floated, the sky above full of stars. The children sat quietly in their seats, all 7. And in the aisle stood the girl in the yellow dress. She looked at me, then reached out. Her mouth didn't move, but I heard her voice anyway. You forgot us. I woke up gasping, sweating, cold. The next evening, I got to the bus earlier than usual. I walked the aisle, counted the rows, checked the seats. I left flowers on seat 5. Nothing fancy. Just a few from the gas station down the road. I didn't know what else to do. I sat in the driver's seat, waiting for the route to start. Then I heard it. The soft scrape of something sliding across the dashboard. I looked down. It was a folded note. I hadn't seen it before. It was drawn in purple crayon, messy, but clear. A smiling face, a bus, and a heart. I looked in the mirror. No one there. But the seat belt in row 7 was buckled. Not tight, not angry, just buckled, like someone was ready to ride. That night, when I passed Old Creek Bridge, I whispered something I hadn't said before. I'm sorry. The girl didn't answer, but I think she heard me. Because when I got to the depot, something was waiting on the dashboard. Another drawing. This one had 8 stick figures. Me and 7 kids. But this time, they weren't all smiling. One stood apart. No face. Just a yellow dress.
I swore I wouldn't do it. I swore I'd follow the rules, but I broke. I don't even know why. That night started like all the others. Kids in, kids out, then silence. The air grew cold as soon as I passed Old Creek Bridge. The radio went dead. The laughter crept in, slow at first, then all at once. And then, her. The girl in the yellow dress. She was there again, row 7, staring at me through the mirror, her eyes fixed, unblinking, blacker than the night outside. I tried to look away, tried to focus on the road, tried to pretend she wasn't there. But the bus slowed on its own. The wheels stiffened. My foot pressed the gas, but the pedal felt like stone. It was like she was in control. I couldn't take it anymore. "What do you want from me?" I asked. The bus shuddered like I just slammed into something. The engine died, lights flickered, doors hissed shut. Everything froze, except her. Her head tilted. Hair fell over her face. The air dropped to freezing in seconds. I could see my breath. And then she whispered, "You're not supposed to ask." My skin went cold. My chest tightened. I tried the ignition. Nothing. Tried the door lever. Stuck. I sat there, trapped, staring at her reflection. She didn't move, didn't blink. Then, faint but clear, I heard voices, dozens of them, children, crying, calling out, "Take us home! Don't leave us! We're cold!" The bus rocked side to side, like unseen hands were shaking it. I gripped the wheel, my nails dug into the leather. "Stop," I whispered. "Please stop." The girl in yellow leaned forward, one hand lifted, pressing flat against the glass of the mirror. And then, my phone buzzed. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I yanked it out of my pocket. The screen lit up. One new voicemail. Unknown number. Hands shaking, I pressed play. It was a child's voice. Small, fragile. "Can you drive us home?" I dropped the phone. It clattered on the floor. By the time I looked up, the girl was gone. The bus roared back to life. The doors hissed open. Warm air filled the cabin again, like nothing had happened. I drove back to the depot in silence. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I got out, Rob was waiting, coffee in hand, as always. "You look like hell," he said. "I quit," I snapped. My voice cracked. "I'm done. I'm not driving that thing again." He didn't look surprised, just sipped his coffee. "Bus 13 doesn't let go easy." I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He set the cup down. "You think you can walk away, but once it's got you, it keeps you. Seen it happen before." "I don't care," I said. "I'm done." I shoved the keys into his chest and stormed off. I got in my car and drove home. Didn't look back. I thought I was free. But when I stepped into my house, I froze. There were muddy footprints in the hallway, small, bare, leading from the front door to Annie's bedroom. My heart stopped. "Annie," I called. No answer. I ran to her room, flung open the door. She was there, sleeping, safe. But the footprints, they ended right beside her bed. I stood in the doorway, shaking. And then I heard it. A laugh. Soft, familiar, from the kitchen. I turned slowly. The hall was empty. But on the wall, in crayon, scrawled big and messy, were 3 words. "Drive us home."
I didn't sleep after I saw the crayon words on my wall. I sat in a kitchen chair with a bat in my lap and watched the hallway until the sun came up. The muddy prints faded by morning like they'd soaked back into the floor. Annie woke up, rubbed her eyes, and asked for pancakes. I made them with shaky hands. I told myself I'd call Rob and tell him I wasn't coming. I told myself I'd burn those keys if he tried to give them back. But when night fell, I was standing in the gravel lot staring at bus 13 again. It felt like I had walked there in a dream, My head was heavy, my jaw ached, my heart was a hammer in a small wooden box. I climbed in. The door hissed shut behind me. No radio, no heater, just me, the seat, and the smell of old rubber and colder air. I didn't start the engine. It started itself. The key turned without my hand. The dash lit up. The needle swept across the gauges. One headlight flickered and held. "Not tonight," I whispered. "I'm not doing this." The bus rolled forward anyway. I grabbed the wheel and hit the brake. The pedal sank under my foot like wet clay, but the bus didn't slow. The lot gate slid open on its own. Gravel popped like corn under the tires. We pulled out onto County Road 7 and headed east. I tried the door lever. It wouldn't budge. Locked. In the mirror, the last row was darker than the rest. I didn't look long. It felt like looking at a well that had no bottom. The road was empty. No cars, no deer, just pines on both sides, packed tight and tall like guards at a silent prison. I pulled out my phone to call Rob. Screen black. Dead. I had charged it. I knew I had. We passed Old Creek Bridge. My breath fogged in front of my face. The air turned wet and cold, like someone opened a freezer full of lake water. The bus kept speed. The engine hummed low and mean. I blinked. Everything went dark. Not a soft fade, not a nodding off kind of blink. One second I was gripping the wheel, the next I was waking up like a diver breaking the surface. My forehead hurt. There was a small bump above my eyebrow. The bus was still moving. The clock on the dash read 3:11 a.m. I had lost time. I checked the road signs. Nothing I recognized. I grabbed my phone again and jabbed the power. This time, the screen lit up. Battery 63%. GPS snapped on. A blue dot spun, then settled. We were 200 miles from town. My mouth went dry. I zoomed in. The map label said Pine Hollow Cemetery. A dirt road line peeled off the highway like a scar and ended in a gray square. I gripped the wheel and tried to turn us around. The wheel fought me. It twisted back, slow, steady, like someone stronger was holding it from the other side. "Let me go," I said. "Let me go! Let me go!" The radio clicked alive. Static hissed. Then a chorus of voices came through the speaker, soft and bright and awful in the same breath. We were almost there. I slammed the radio with my palm. The voices cut, then returned, like they were inside the wires and my hand just pushed them to the edges. We're almost there. The bus left the highway on its own. Gravel crunched under the tires. Trees leaned in and blocked the sky. I tried the horn. It honked once and died. The lights dimmed to a dirty yellow smear. The windshield showed a tunnel of black bark and white stones. The bus crept down a hill, slow as a hearse. Then, I noticed the overhead numbers. I hadn't paid them any mind before, just small stenciled seat labels. But now they were glowing, red. Faint at first, then brighter. Seat 3, Seat 5, Seat 7, Seat 9, Seat 10, Seat 12, Seat 14. 7 numbers. One by one, they lit up and stayed lit. The air got heavy. The bus felt full. The smell of damp clothes and lake water seeped into everything. I could hear the tiny squeak of wet shoes on rubber. The seatbelts clicked, not all at once, not neat, just as kids do. I kept my eyes on the road. My hands were cramped claws on the wheel. The cemetery gate appeared on the right, iron bars, bent and rusted, letters missing from a metal arch. The ones that remained read, "In-O Low." We rolled through. Rows of stones stood like crooked teeth. Some were flat and cracked, some were tall and pale and smooth, like they got more care than the rest. The bus followed a loop and climbed a small rise. At the top, the trees opened and I saw the sky. It wasn't the night I knew. There were stars, but they were wrong. Too many, too close, too bright. They drifted in slow circles like fish in a deep black bowl. A gray ripple moved across them like someone had dragged a hand through water between us. "We're almost there," the radio said again, softer now, like a lullaby. "No," I said, voice shaking. "No, this isn't home." The wheel twitched under my grip. The bus turned toward a patch of ground with no stones, just tall grass and small white flags stabbed into the dirt. I stomped the brake with both feet. This time the pedal bit. The bus shuddered and stopped. Everything went quiet. I could hear my heart. Then the crying started. It came from the back. One voice at first, then another, then more. Little cries, choked breaths, the sound of small hands trying to wipe tears on wet sleeves. Rule number 1, never stop if you hear crying. I didn't move. I didn't look. I remembered the sticky notes. I remembered Emma Ray. I remembered the crayon drawing with the faceless girl in yellow. "Don't do this," I whispered. "Please." Something brushed the back of my seat. A little bump like a head leaning forward too far and touching the vinyl. The radio crackled. "Open the door." "I can't. I'm not supposed to." "Open the door," the voices said. Not angry, not loud, just final, like the end of a bedtime story. I reached for the lever. My hand hovered. My skin buzzed. Every part of me screamed to stop. Then I saw them. Down in the aisle, by my right foot. Red shoes. Small. Wet. Toes pointed toward me. They hadn't been there a second ago. They dripped under the gray rubber mat. Each drop made a dark coin that didn't soak in. Rule number 3. If you see red shoes in the aisle, don't move. I froze. I held my breath. My eyes burned. The shoes didn't move closer. They didn't move at all. But I felt a crowd around me. The air pressed in. Not evil, not kind, just present, like a storm before it breaks. The overhead numbers dimmed and brightened together, steady as a heartbeat. 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14. Red glow, fade, red glow, fade. The sky rippled again. The stars drifted apart, then closed like an eye. The radio hissed. "We're almost there," the children said as one. "Don't make us drive." The steering wheel turned a fraction on its own, toward the open grass and the small white flags, toward the place where holes once had been or were about to be. I didn't know which was worse, past or future. I shut my eyes and whispered, "Tell me where home is." Silence fell, like snow. Then a single girl's voice, soft as breath on cold glass. "Back where you forgot us." The engine growled. The wheel loosened under my hands. The bus turned itself around and started to roll, slow and sure, out of the cemetery, back toward the trees, back to a road I did not know, under a sky that was not mine. Above me, the 7 red numbers glowed steady, like they'd finally made a choice. And somewhere inside the radio, a single whisper I knew by now. We're almost there.
I don't remember getting back to the depot. 1 second, I was gripping the wheel, that whisper still curling in my ear. Back where you forgot us. The next, I was parked in the lot, engine off, headlights dim. The gate behind me was shut, padlocked tight. But I hadn't been the one to close it. The bus was silent, but I could still feel them. The weight, the eyes, the smell of lake water clinging to my clothes. I staggered out, knees weak, and promised myself I was done. I meant it this time. No more routes, no more rules, no more ghosts. The next night, though, I found myself climbing those steps again. It wasn't choice, it was pull. Like strings wrapped around my chest, dragging me back into the seat. I told myself I could fight them, that if I followed the rules, really followed them, I'd survive. That's when I made a mistake. I covered the mirror. A roll of duct tape sat in the maintenance shed. I tore off strips and plastered them over the rear view until it was just silver metal and gray tape. No reflections, no shadows, nothing. I felt better, safer, but I wasn't. When the route ended that night and I turned onto the return road, I noticed something in the windshield, a shimmer. At first I thought it was the glass, or maybe my eyes, tired and dry. Then I realized what I was seeing. The mirror's reflection. Not taped, not covered, clear as day. It floated across the windshield, faint but sharp, showing the aisle behind me. And every seat was full. Kids sat there, wet hair, pale skin, clothes clinging like they'd just climbed out of the river. They didn't move, didn't speak, just sat, facing forward, riding like it was the most normal thing in the world. My breath caught in my throat. I forced my eyes on the road. Not real, not real, I whispered. But the reflection stayed. And when I dared a glance, I saw myself. Not the me sitting in the driver's seat, a different me, a younger one. Uniform shirt, whistle around the neck, skin tighter, eyes sharper. And behind that version of me, kids, the same kids. They weren't staring forward anymore, they were staring at me. I jerked the wheel. The bus swerved, tires screaming against the asphalt. The reflection flickered. And for a split second, I saw something worse. Not me, not kids. Water. Black, endless water flooding the windshield. And hands, small, gray hands slapping the glass, reaching, pulling, pressing until cracks spread across the image. I screamed and slammed the brakes. The bus skidded to a stop. The reflection was gone, but when I looked down at the floor, water was dripping from the edges of the taped-over mirror, drop after drop, clear, cold. It puddled at my boots. I scrambled back, heart hammering, and yanked at the tape. "Enough! Enough!" I shouted. The tape tore free. The mirror was bare again, but it wasn't showing the aisle. It was showing me. Just me. But not as I was now. I was sitting in water up to my chest, shivering, screaming, kids' hands clawing at me, dragging me under. I slapped it, hard. The glass cracked. Not shattered, not spidered, cracked. And from that crack, a bead of blood trickled down. Not mine, the mirror's. I stumbled back into the seat, shaking. My throat was tight, my head spun. Every mirror on that bus, small, round, flat, shiny, flared to life at once. The side mirrors, the ceiling emergency mirror, even the black glass of the dead dash cam. Each one showed a different me. One driving, one drowning, one rocking in the seat, whispering to myself, one standing on Old Creek Bridge staring down at dark water, and one, the worst one, turning in the seat to look at the camera, eyes black, smile wide, whispering something I couldn't hear.
I reached for the wheel. The bus roared to life. The mirrors pulsed, and all the kids, every last one, pressed their faces against the glass in unison, mouths open wide but silent. I yanked the wheel left. The bus obeyed. The mirrors blinked. And suddenly, I wasn't on the county road anymore. I was somewhere else. The sky was wrong again, the trees taller, the air heavier. And the bus kept rolling forward, every mirror showing a future I wasn't ready to see.
I couldn't breathe. Every mirror showed me something different, versions of myself I didn't remember living, versions I didn't want to believe were real. But deep down, I knew. The road under the bus twisted like a snake. Each turn didn't feel like steering. It felt like memory, forcing me somewhere I had been before. And then I saw it. Not in the windshield, not in the headlights. In the mirrors. A flash of red. A little backpack with unicorn patches. And beside it, a girl. Not the one in yellow. My girl. Annie. My chest caved in. My breath stopped. But no, it wasn't her. She was home, safe in bed. This was different. Smaller. Younger. And then it hit me. The memory I had buried so deep, it clawed its way back like a corpse from the dirt. The day my world ended. The day I lost my daughter. Not Annie. The first one. Lila. Her name was Lila. She was 7. Dark hair, gap in her teeth. Loved to draw suns with too many rays. She died on a school trip. A bus accident. Not just any bus. Bus 13. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles cracked. My heart rattled in my chest like a coin in a tin can. The memory came hard and fast. I was younger, driving, rain slashing the windshield, kids laughing, singing, shouting, the road slick with mud, and then the bridge. Tires slipping, screams, the world tilting sideways. Water. The bus sinking. Children pounding the windows, me choking, coughing, kicking, trying to reach them, trying to reach her. Lila. Her hand pressed against the glass, small, pale, slipping away. Then darkness. I woke up in a hospital bed. Doctors told me I'd blacked out. Said the bus skidded. Said it wasn't my fault. But I remembered. I had been behind the wheel, and I hadn't saved her. The mirrors all pulsed together, showing me that moment again and again. My hands on the wheel, kids screaming, Lila vanishing into the water. And the voices came. Whispers, hissing, crawling down my spine. You forgot us, you left us, you let us drown. I slammed the brakes. The bus screeched, tires smoking, until we stopped in the middle of a road I didn't recognize. I leaned forward, head in my hands, shaking. No, I whispered. I tried to get to you. I didn't forget. I didn't. But the whispers didn't stop. I looked up. Every seat was filled now. 7 children. Emma Ray, the boy with the red shoes, the girl in the yellow dress, and others I didn't know by name but somehow recognized by their faces. Dripping hair, hollow eyes,
pale lips. And all of them staring at me, not with anger, with disappointment, with sorrow. I turned back to the mirror. The girl in the yellow dress stood in the aisle, closer than ever. She lifted a hand and pointed at me. "You forgot us." Her voice didn't come from her mouth, it came from everywhere, through the mirrors, the vents, the floor. And then the boy in the third row leaned forward, his lips moved, and I heard it inside my skull. "You killed us." I slammed the wheel. "No, it was an accident." But the mirror disagreed. It showed me sitting behind the wheel with dry eyes, staring ahead while water rose around the seats. It showed me climbing out first. It showed me leaving them. "No," I whispered again. "That's not real. That's not what happened." The girl's head tilted. "Why did you forget her name?" I froze. Lila. My little girl. I hadn't spoken her name in years. I had buried it so deep, even Andy didn't know she'd had a sister. Because it was easier to forget. Easier to pretend it had never happened. The mirrors rattled. The bus groaned. Windows fogged with wet handprints pressing from the outside. "Say it," they whispered. "Say her name." I clenched my jaw, shook my head. Tears burned down my cheeks. But the pressure built. The voices rose. "Say it! Say it! Say it!" I slammed both fists into the wheel. "Lila!" The bus went silent. Every mirror cracked at once. The children vanished. The girl in the yellow dress stood alone in the aisle. Her face softened. Her lips trembled. "You remembered." Then she was gone. The mirrors went dark. And for the first time since I climbed aboard Bus 13, the silence felt empty. Not safe, not whole, but empty. I sat there, shaking until the bus rolled on its own again. The road stretched ahead, and I knew where it was going. Back to Old Creek Bridge. Back to where I had left them. Back to where my sin began.
The bridge came into view like it had been waiting for me all these years. Old Creek Bridge, rusted rails, cracked pavement, the smell of river water rising up before I even reached it. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles turned white. The bus rumbled beneath me, heavy and alive, like it was eager to return. The mirrors were quiet now, the voices silent, but I knew they were here. I could feel them in the weight of the air, in the chill that never left the back rows. As the front tires touched the bridge, the bus changed. The dashboard flickered, the metal groaned. Rust spread across the yellow paint like rot eating fruit. Water seeped through the floor, puddling around my boots. The windshield fogged, then dripped as if rain poured down inside instead of out. I swallowed hard. This is it, isn't it? The aisle creaked. One by one, they appeared. Emma Ray first, seat 5, window. Her hair wet, her dress clinging to her shoulders. She didn't speak, just stared out at the dark water below. Then the boy with the red shoes. He dragged his feet down the aisle, squeaking against the wet floor before sitting near the back. And then the rest, 7 in all, each buckling their seatbelts, each looking forward like it was just another ride home. Last came the girl in the yellow dress. She walked slow, barefoot, leaving wet prints that shimmered like ink. When she reached the front, she didn't sit. She stood in the aisle facing me. "Home," she whispered. My throat closed. I pressed the brake, but the bus groaned, but didn't stop. It rolled steady across the bridge, each plank beneath us groaning like it might split. Halfway across, the kids began to speak, not in unison, not in chaos, in order. One by one, each said a single word: goodbye. 7 voices, 7 goodbyes, each one cut through me like glass. Emma was the last. She turned her head just enough for me to see her pale face. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she vanished. Seat by seat, they all vanished. The belts unbuckled on their own, clicking softly, one after another, until the bus was empty. The girl in yellow was last. She stepped closer to me, her eyes dark pools like a drown-in. For the first time, she smiled. It was small, fragile. She leaned forward and wrapped her arms around me. Cold, wet, but gentle. "Thank you for remembering," she whispered in my ear. And then she was gone. I was alone. The bus groaned louder. The floorboards split. Water sprayed up from the cracks. The steering wheel locked, yanking left. I knew what it wanted. I didn't fight it. I closed my eyes, and I drove Bus 13 off the side of Old Creek Bridge. The fall was short. The impact was not. The water exploded around me, crashing through the windshield, filling my lungs before I could scream. The world went black. And then I woke up in a hospital bed. Machines beeped around me. My chest hurt like fire. My head pounded. A nurse leaned over me. "You're awake." I tried to speak, but my throat was raw. She held a cup of water to my lips. I drank, coughing. What happened?" I rasped. Her face softened. "You were in an accident. Your car veered off the road near Old Creek Bridge. You were lucky someone saw the crash." I shook my head weakly. "Not car. The bus." She frowned. "What bus?" My heart stopped. "Bus 13, I whispered. But she didn't answer. She only checked the machines, gave me a tired smile, and walked out. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my chest still heavy with river water that wasn't there. Was it a dream? Or had I finally taken them home? I didn't know. But I did know one thing. The route wasn't finished. Not yet.
I left the hospital 3 days later. Bruised ribs, stitches above my brow, a limp I couldn't shake, but alive. Annie hugged me so hard I thought my chest would split again. I held her back, swearing to myself I'd never touch a steering wheel for the district again. No buses, no routes, no rules. I quit the job that same week. Sold my old sedan for scrap and bought a used hatchback. Dented, ugly, but mine. My car, my rules. For the first time in months, I felt free. Or I tried to. Because some things don't let go. One night, weeks later, I was driving past the school. Annie was asleep in the back seat, her head resting on a pillow, wrapped in a blanket. The radio hummed soft music. The heater blew warm air. It should have been peaceful. But then I heard it. A laugh. High, childlike. From the back seat. My chest turned to stone. My hands clamped on the wheel. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Annie was still there, sleeping, safe. But she wasn't alone. The girl in yellow sat beside her. Hair wet, feet bare, eyes dark. She looked at me in the mirror and smiled. I slammed the brakes. The car screeched, skidding to the side of the road. Annie stirred but didn't wake. The girl in yellow never moved, just stared. Then she whispered, soft as fog, "Some routes never end." My throat locked. My breath came fast and sharp. I blinked, and she was gone. Annie shifted in her seat, mumbling in her sleep. The car was empty again, but I couldn't stop shaking. I pulled back onto the road and drove straight home, never daring to look in the mirror again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my hands. My phone buzzed once. A message. Unknown number. A single line. "See you at the depot." I dropped the phone like it burned me. My heart pounded. Against every ounce of sense I had left, I drove back out to the bus lot. The chain-link fence loomed tall in the moonlight, padlocked like always. But as I rolled up, the gate slid open by itself. The lot was silent. Rows of buses slept under the pale glow of the yard lights. Except one. Bus 13. It sat in the far corner, rusted paint catching silver light. The engine was cold, but the headlights blinked once, twice, like it was breathing. I froze, hands gripping the steering wheel of my little car. I knew I should turn around, leave, forget, but I couldn't. Because the truth pressed in, heavy and suffocating. The route never ended. Not when I crashed into the river. Not when I quit. Not when I tried to walk away. Bus 13 wasn't a vehicle. It was a grave. A trap. And I was still its driver. I sat there, staring at it, until my vision blurred. And in the quiet, in the cold, I heard it again. Children's laughter, soft, echoing, coming from the dark rows of buses, coming from bus 13. I whispered into the silence, voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The headlights flared bright, and the answer came not from the bus, not from the lot, but from everywhere. At once. You. The lights died. The yard fell silent again. But I knew. They weren't finished with me. Not yet. Because some routes never end. And some buses never stop driving you.